Hello, this is Lee back once again, and I wanted to make a few more comments about Shimmer Volume 62. Now, I felt I said quite a bit in my previous review, but there were some points that I feel I should cover. This volume was recorded in New Orleans, Louisiana, of course, as it says on the cover. This was actually on the campus of Tulane University. And if you look at the crowd, it looks much smaller, I feel, than the Berwyn Eagles Club in the Chicagoland area of Illinois. I feel it is comparable to the size of the crowds you saw in the early Shimmer volumes. And those early volumes, according to Wikipedia, of course, were about 180 persons. You see a few rows and big curtains and things. But anyway, that's nothing against the show. Apparently, it was on the backdrop of many other wrestling events, as the iPPVs have tended to be. So many of these fans may have seen a lot of other wrestling that weekend. Anyway, as I said before, it's a good show, worth watching. When I initially watched the live stream over WWN Network, I was a bit disappointed at the visual and audio quality. And also I had to get used to some of the wrestlers that I hadn't seen before, since there was several volumes behind. So my view of the overall show has improved. I believe I said that in my other review. But there was one match I sorely neglected. If I can get my words out. I'm so upset. No, I was just kidding. It was the match between Athena and Candice LeRae. Now, I think initially I dismissed Candice LeRae, and this was very unfair of me, because there's nothing that really stands out about her appearance, and I hate to say that, because she is an attractive woman, very pretty, but nevertheless, referring to the commentary, and of course the live show, well, the live streaming show had commentary from many persons, which I'll say more about in a minute, pointed out that Candice LeRae is part of the PWG promotion, which is Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. A very strange name, but from what I am told, of course, I don't see much of PWG except in clips of Botchamania. Not to say that they botch any more than any other wrestlers, but nevertheless, much of their footage appears on that Matthew channel. But anyway, PWG is apparently a promotion run by wrestlers, which is unusual in the business. And normally you'll have promoters who maybe have been announcers or managers, commentators, but not wrestlers themselves, even if they insert themselves into the show as, say, Vince McMahon of the WWE did in his time. And of course Dave Prazak, a manager. But to have wrestlers themselves running the promotion, not just a few here and there, but the main ones. So anyway, that's what I've heard. So good for them, keeping their skills sharp and keeping their network going. But anyway, Candice LeRae, apparently, she is I believe it was Dave Prazak's words on the commentary. He said she was the female face of PWG. So apparently she's worked very hard. And this is the part where the family-friendly atmosphere of Shimmer has been maintained for so long is twisted a little bit, questioned a little bit. Of course, you have Athena's finishing move is called the O-Face. Of course, as she just jumps off the top rope and does a stun on her opponent. And people will chant, "Oh, oh, oh," and she does. And the people who don't want her to do it will say, "No, no, no." It's quite funny. But anyway, Candice LeRae, apparently she often teams up with a Joey Ryan, male wrestler who appeared very briefly in TNA as a contestant in the Gut Check Challenge, and he got into a feud with Al Snow. It was an interesting storyline. But anyway, Joey Ryan is this uncouth individual, very chauvinistic, very flirtatious with the women, considers himself, such a sexy man. But anyway, Joey Ryan has an unfortunate tendency to touch the women inappropriately. And so, if you want an example of what I'm talking about, he wrestles Lufisto, and he touches her upper chest region. Now, of course, in a wrestling match, you imagine, well, why would wrestlers be so concerned about being touched? Because they have to grab one another and throw each other around. Sorry about the dog. Apologize for my canine friends. Perhaps a Terminator has been spotted in the neighborhood. Hopefully, Kyle Reese and his friends will be, taking care of that shortly. But anyway, yes. So Joey Ryan, he will touch his opponents, and if you say, well, in wrestling, you have to grab one another. You can't have that much of a sense of personal space. But he goes out of his way to do this to women, to try to humiliate them, and they often, make a comeback against him and get the crowd on their side, not his. But anyway, Candice LeRae is sort of the counterpart. While Joey Ryan will do this to women, Candice LeRae will do it right back to him, grabbing him in the lower area, sort of the low blow, but she'll turn that into a scoop slam and throw him by his nether regions, if you will. It's a move that requires a suspension of disbelief. But nevertheless, Candice LeRae is known for this move, and of course, in a women's match, you would say, well, how does that work? She does this move on Athena, and of course, she's not really grabbing her, but she does scoop up, between her legs to throw her. So you just get that moment of the PG is stretched a little bit. But anyway, and of course, the other big example of that is Sweet Saraya with her naughty language and hand gestures occasionally, and of course, threatening the crowd and so forth. But it's all part of the show. And when it comes to wrestling, generally Shimmer is much less interested in shock value as, say, the WWF was during the Attitude Era. They've had certain angles over time. There was one involving Portia Perez and Allison Danger that was, pushing some boundaries. But generally speaking, most of the stuff is family friendly, if you will. But anyway, Candice LeRae. I had completely forgotten about the match, more or less. I was so focused on Athena. Well, I will say two things about this match on the card. First of all, Athena was back in her top form, I felt. She did very well in this match. Even though I didn't really like her new music and entrance as much, I certainly felt that she did a wonderful job. Much more the Athena that I remember from her debut. Snappy moves, good charisma, good look, and everything like that. There was maybe one or two rough spots, but in every wrestling show there are. But I felt it was much better than I had seen. Athena just had just a little bit of a rough patch. A couple of matches where it wasn't quite. She wasn't quite up to her potential. I don't know if that was due to injury or scheduling, or she's just having an off day. Sometimes, your opponent makes a mistake and you have to try to cover for it, but it doesn't quite work. My own experiences in the theater, I can vouch for some of that, of course. But anyway, Athena did a great job in this match, and Candice LeRae, in her match with Athena, I felt was very good. She had very snappy, smooth moves. There was at one point, just an aside, they did the rolling cradle, which is where one wrestler grabs the other in kind of a quick roll-up type pin, a small package, I think they call it. But then the other wrestler rolls forward to try to roll that wrestler onto their shoulders to pin them. And then the other one rolls back and forth, and then they started rolling around the ring. Now this was a move that I remember Manami Toyota often did to her opponents in the Joshi scene in All Japan women's wrestling. But of course, with Manami Toyota, she would roll around and around and around and around the entire ring like so many times, and they would get up dizzy for like 2 seconds, and then boom, they were back into the match again. It was amazing to watch, but you always knew it was coming. Well, in this I believe is the first time I've seen a variation of this in Shimmer or anywhere outside of Joshi. But anyway, they didn't do it quite as much as the Joshi wrestlers did. But nevertheless, they got up and they made a big show of being dizzy and trying to reach out and grab one another to do the next hold. It was very effective, and I think the crowd enjoyed that moment. So good moves. Candice LeRae demonstrated that she was much more than a plain, model with good looks. She had very good moves, and I think she did a great job of selling her opponent's offense. Very often, wrestlers with long hair, when they're fighting, the hair will droop into their eyes. And something I've noticed, now the male wrestlers, throughout modern history, they tend to do the hair flip. They'll flip up their hair and they'll try to, get it out of their face and look cool and look like, I don't care, kind of, I'm gonna get you attitude. But the women wrestlers I've noticed very often, especially in Shimmer, unfortunately, they have a tendency to kind of, part the hair back. Like it's just an ordinary day, like, oh, it got in my eyes, oh, it's kind of annoying. First of all, you say, well, if you're being kicked in the face, why would you do such a casual parting of the hair? Well, that's because wrestling isn't real. It's fake. But nevertheless, I mean, the hair in the eyes would be annoying. I understand that. But the way they do it, it just, rather than, get it out of my, which I think would really happen, they just kind of casually, yes. But Candice LeRae, I noticed there were at least a couple of moments where the hair was in her eyes, and she was still selling as if, oh, I'm in such pain. She had a hand to her head. She was staggering. And so I felt, that is a rare skill. Because it's not to say other wrestlers don't do this or can't do this, but very often there's just those moments of, oh, let me get this hair out of my eyes, and it just looks fake for just a second. And I suspend disbelief, of course. But Candice LeRae, she had the hair and eyes, and she was still in the moment, in the character. And I give her so much credit for that subtle, that small, but important detail. So, while I was not looking forward to seeing her in future shows necessarily, rewatching the match and noticing that fine detail again and saying, that is the mark of a very careful show woman. And so, kudos for that, and I do look forward to seeing her soon. So anyway, just some extended comments there. I also wanted to say the commentary team. Now, there were some different commentators for the Shimmer Volume 53 iPPV, as I believe I mentioned in that video. But Amber Gerdner, the backstage interviewer a long time for Shimmer, also did some commentary with Dave Prazak, and she was kind of humorous. She talked about getting dizzy from having a few beers while on the commentary, commenting on the rolling cradle move, incidentally. So she was kind of fun to hear from. Also, there was a Lenny Leonard. Apparently he's a commentator personality from Shine promotion, which of course is the iPPV only, because 5 digital versatile discs have been released, but there's like 31, 32, something like that, iPPVs out there. I've never actually watched a Shine show, but Lenny Leonard apparently is a commentator for that, and he appeared on the commentary team briefly to commentate the match between Ivelisse and Kimberly. Now, Ivelisse, I mentioned, came to the ring, also known as Ivelisse Velez. Of course, she was in Lucha Underground and TNA briefly. She came to the ring wearing the Shine Championship belt. It's a white belt with gold. So anyway, I think she made a very good showing. Very small woman, as I've commented, but very tough in her demeanor, in her performance. But anyway, so there's a few more details about that. Also, yes, I said that match was very good. There were some glitches at the start with the music. You'll notice if you listen carefully, and of course at the time I saw this live, I really wasn't paying that close of attention because I was trying to get everything set up. But anyway, they goofed up the music. I think there was the music was too quiet when Sassy Steffi and Nevaeh came out. No Mademoiselle Rochelle this time. I think she did fine without her. I enjoy Mademoiselle Rochelle. But Sassy Steffi, of course, I mean, she almost always has someone else helping her. But nevertheless, so they didn't play the music, and by the time they were already out to the ring, they were waiting for their opponents, and then then you could start hearing Sassy Steffi's music, from Skillet, I believe it is, and then Awake and Alive. But anyway, their opponents, Heidi Lovelace and Solo Darling, of course, her debut, without the kitty cat tail, but the kitty cat ears, came out, and they were still playing Sassy Steffi's music, and they were already to the ring, and then they started playing, I think, Heidi Lovelace's music. Getting ahead of my words. But anyway, so they goofed up the music. But the match itself, I didn't give much attention to this the first time, and at the time I was thinking, well, all right, let's get to the next one. It was a tag team match, and often tag team matches, I feel, are a way to fit in many wrestlers, to fill time, because rather than having two separate matches, you just have one match, cram it all together, and it also gives them a chance, the wrestlers, to rest. So if you have like an inexperienced wrestler paired with a more experienced wrestler, they can balance each other out. So if one wrestler's having trouble, the other one can jump in and do a few things. They can give each other a rest break. That also helps with wrestlers who have had injuries. They maybe can't go as fast and as strong for as long as they normally would, and so the tag team gives them an opportunity to not appear to be stalling, but nevertheless keep things moving and get a break. Well, I felt as if Heidi Lovelace has come a long way, but I think she did very well in this match, and I'll give her lots of credit for that. There was one strange moment, though, when she picked up, I believe, no, here was what happened. Okay, Sassy Steffi, who I feel I've, criticized in the past, saying, well, I didn't like her look, I didn't like her style. Well, I still don't, but nevertheless, she works very hard, and I give her credit for doing her job well. She's just not one of my favorites. It's nothing personal against her, but I felt she did perfectly fine in this match, and with the other two wrestlers who were less experienced on the other side, I think she did a good job of, helping them out and making them look good, which is the job of a wrestler. I mean, you can't just showboat the whole time. You have to make your opponent look good in the sense of either making them appear powerful by, taking the moves, or by making them sympathetic. You're beating them within an inch of their lives, but you're getting the audience to care about them. To hate you and love them. Just as an example. So anyway, I think she does a good job of that. But anyway, Sassy Steffi, I believe she picked up Heidi Lovelace as if she was going to do a power bomb. Now this is a move where, the legs of the other wrestler are around the shoulders, and she's picking her up. She's going to throw her to the ground back first, and she does this, boom! But then Sassy Steffi falls over, and I didn't. The only thing, I guess, in suspension of disbelief is to say, well, Sassy Steffi was so tired, this was the best she could do. But she slammed Heidi Lovelace to the mat, and then immediately Sassy Steffi fell over, and Heidi Lovelace popped up. It was a moment of, what? What just happened here? Now, of course, in the live show, you blink, you miss it, you move on. But I think, what was supposed to happen is there probably should have been a reversal there. Heidi should have done something to escape the move and transfer the damage to Sassy Steffi, her opponent. But nevertheless, despite that, I think the match went very well. And Solo Darling, of course, we had not seen much of yet. She comes across as kind of a rookie. Of course, she looks very good. She has kind of a goofy, funny outfit. And apologize. Solo Darling with a goofy, funny outfit. I think she's coming along. Not one of my favorites yet, but we'll see what she has to do. But anyway, I think overall, the tag team match was actually very good. But because it was the first match, they were working out the technical difficulties with the sound and the lighting. Of course, the lighting really didn't get fixed throughout the show, but it looks much better on the digital versatile disc than the live program. So I think I brushed this match over a bit. Probably the live fans did too. But nevertheless, I sincerely think all involved wanted to give those wrestlers credit, their due credit. Some of these matches I just skip over just because they didn't leave a strong impression on me. But looking back, of course, and that's the wonderful thing about digital versatile disc, you can go back, you can watch it again, you can give it a second look, a third look, etc. Now, let's see. I believe I also commented on Hikaru Shida. Very impressed with her. I think actually her other matches are better than this one. But, of course, Evie is a great wrestler. And the two of them, I think, brought out the best in one another. Hikaru Shida, her other matches, I think, are better than this one. But this was a good introduction for her, for many of the fans who had not seen her before. And of course, the digital versatile discs had not caught up yet, so this was their introduction to Hikaru Shida. So, Nikki Storm, of course, I commented that at the time I saw this, I didn't think much of her, but then watching the matches before this and the matches after, I've come to appreciate her and her over-the-top, almost charming arrogance, similar to Kelly Skater. Of course, she is Scottish rather than Australian. Very fit. So, anyway, overall, great wrestler. I wanted to say more about Mercedes Martinez. Now, of course, she faced Courtney Rush on this. I'd commented before on Mercedes Martinez and her ability to almost always have a wonderful match. Her style, of course, despite her many injuries, lends itself to longevity with her, brawling style, but also her powerful-looking throws and her just drama, her selling, just overall, just a great wrestler. And I was under the impression she was nearing retirement. Of course, I can't be sure of anything in the world of wrestling. But nevertheless, I thought, well, I'll be sad to see her go. But she's had a great career. But anyway, I believe I may have mentioned, well, she came out wearing a title belt. She's never been a Shimmer champion. But this was the NCW Femme Fatale's International Championship. And of course, NCW Femme Fatale is a Canadian, French-Canadian based women's wrestling promotion where Lufisto, Calamity, Sweet Sherry, and many others have performed in. I believe also Sweet Sarayas, probably some other Shimmer regulars have appeared there. But anyway, Mercedes Martinez was defending that title belt there. So NCW Femme Fatale and Shine joining the canon, if you will, of Shimmer alongside Ring of Honor, AAW, and a few other promotions, PWWA. They're all interconnected apparently. Storyline-wise, who knows? But there you go. Excellent match. And I will say, Courtney Rush mentions that she had a collarbone injury, of course, which is very severe for a wrestler since they take so many hits to the back region, near the shoulders and so forth. The bumps, as they call them, falling to the mat, throwing oneself into the mat, which is padded, but of course not completely soft. There is wood and metal underneath there. But anyway, this explains actually probably some of her later style changes, where she is much more subdued in the ring, far fewer high impact moves that she takes and so forth, doesn't move as fast. So I think she is adapting her style to compensate for these injuries. So I can't blame her for that. But nevertheless, this Courtney Rush that we saw in Volume 62, I think was still had so much of the energy and power and finesse of the Courtney Rush that had been pushed earlier. So I think it was a great match up to have with Mercedes, because I think Mercedes has done such a great job compensating for her own injuries and making it appear as if it is really no dust off her shoulders, as they say, no water off her back, because she still has that fighting spirit. She can adapt to anything. Many wrestlers have done this. I believe Akira Hakuto had to change her style because of severe injuries. You may not see wrestlers, diving off of the turnbuckle so much, and doing, incredible flips, but nevertheless, the moves have impact. They look like they're powerful. They do technical wrestling maneuvers, and so they still put on a great show, and you don't feel as if, oh, they're so worn down, they're crippled, they can't do it anymore. Their style has just changed. So I think Courtney Rush did an excellent job in this particular match, as did Mercedes Martinez, of course. So, wonderful show. Just wanted to say those few more things overall. And of course, I could go on and on about these shows because there's just so much there. But despite the smaller venue, one last thing. There was a rather funny fan, a very witty fan. It may have been the same person, may have been different ones. But during the Heidi Lovelace, Solo Darling, Sassy Steffi, and Nevaeh match, he was saying something like, we love Heidi, we love Heidi, and the chant didn't get going. And that's always embarrassing, because you try to start a chant as a fan, and no one really carries it, and it kind of died down. And then he changed it to, it was, we want Heidi, and no one really joined in after he said it a few times, so he said, I want Heidi. And so it was just like, well, I like her. So it was, there you go. There was another odd moment. I think it was captured on video by someone else. I believe Dave Prazak brought it onto his channel. I'm not sure if the clip is still there. But and I didn't notice this at the time, probably because the commentary was going. But Lufisto was tossed out of the ring during her match, and there was a fan that was very close, I guess, to the microphone, and he said something like, well, what you've got to do now is, and he listed all these moves, this sequence of moves, the spinning suplex off the top rope, followed by a, whatever, power bomb, and it was silly, very silly. But nevertheless, that's the kind of thing that happens at these live shows. People just say strange things, and sometimes it falls flat, and sometimes it gets a laugh. Sometimes it's a distraction. And certainly those fans can be annoying, as if, well, who did we come to see? Did we come to see the wrestlers, or did we come to see you? But I think at its best, fan interaction becomes part of the show, because they'll say something, and then the wrestlers respond. It's as if it's interactive. They feed off one another, and I think that's fan interaction at its best. But other times there's just goofy things that are said. And during many shows, commentators like announcers like Joey Eastman he'll be standing off to the side during the match, or before or after, and if you happen to be in that area where you can hear him and maybe Bryce Remsburg, one of the other officials, they will say little asides to one another. It's not meant to be part of the show. They'll just make a few jokes. Maybe someone will say something to them, and they'll respond. You can just hear some funny things, and it's never captured on the recordings. But nevertheless, it's a fun part of the experience. Everybody seems to be there to enjoy themselves. This isn't just a job. I mean, of course, it's entertainment, and it should be fun for the performers as well as the fans. So there you go. So I'm very excited because there is a new Shimmer weekend coming up very shortly. Volume 76, 77, 78, 79, and I'm planning to attend. I'm very excited about that. So I'll be talking about those shows hopefully before too long. Of course, it may be a hard wait for those digital versatile discs to come into production, but many more are supposedly going to be released this month. Let's hope so. Dave Prazak, don't let us down, and your production team. Now, Shimmer actually presses their discs professionally, and they look very good. And so I think that's what takes longer. Now, if you're a fan of Chikara, they're able to get their discs out much faster, but you can see the difference in the package quality. You know, they'll have, printed discs on top of, burned DVD-Rs, cheap cases. The content is great, but, cheap. Whereas Shimmer goes for the, high quality cases, nice finish on the pressed discs, so it looks like something you'd buy in a store, as opposed to something that your friends made in their garage and gave to you for Christmas for fun. So there you go. So I'm looking forward to that, and I thank you for listening to me as I wrap up Volume 62.